Right, hi everybody. Today we are going to be making lemon meringue pie and traditional lemon meringue pie. There are lots of recipes, different recipes for lemon meringue pie out there, but today I'm going to make a traditional one. And I'm going to start with a pastry. Now, if you do not have a food processor, please can you watch my video on short crust pastry with the rubbing in method, and that will give you the instructions for this one. Right, so today we're going to be doing essentially the rubbing in method, but with a food processor, just because it's quicker, guys. So if you have got a food processor at home, please, by all means, use your food processor. So the way I'm going to start is I'm going to start with my butter and my flour, and that's going to be whizzed up, and I'll show you what that looks like as soon as it's done. Right, so I've done that, and guys, pulse it. Don't just mix it on high speed, so just pulse, pulse, pulse until you get some breadcrumbs. So now I'm going to add the icing sugar. And the difference between this video and my other short crust pastry video is the video that shows short crust pastry with the rubbing in method is a plain short crust pastry and not enriched, whereas this one is enriched with egg, and it's also sweetened because we're going to be making lemon meringue pie. So that is icing sugar, and now I'm going to add 1 egg to the mix. I've beaten that up just to break up the egg a little, and I'll be back to show you what that looks like. Sorry, I forgot to mention that you should or could at this stage add a tablespoon of water, but I like to mix it first to see what my pastry is like and how wet my pastry is before I add any water. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and if I need to, I'll show you if I add some water. Right guys, so just to show you, I don't actually need to put any water in here. It's come together in a ball of dough, and I'm going to not going to add any water to that. I'm now going to take it out here and get it onto my counter. Right now guys, I'm lucky enough, well, I bake a lot and I cover a lot of cakes in fondant, so I have one of these just because it's quicker for no other reason. But you can just use a normal ruler. This is my kitchen ruler, and I use it in the kitchen. I have a 23 centimeter tin ready to go. You make sure that you have a 23 centimeter tin that's ready to go. And guys, you can use a heat-proof dish for this. You can use anything. You can use a cake tin for this. You don't have to have one of these pie dishes. Mine's also a loose bottom, but you don't need to have a loose bottom tin either. So you can just measure 23 centimeters just to make sure that your dough, your pastry, sorry, is the right size for your tin. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I am going to flour, and guys, this is quite a soft pastry because it's enriched, and I should actually have even done the egg a little at a time. I had to add a little bit of flour to my pastry because it was a little bit too wet. So now I'm going to show you the technique without the cling film. If you've had a look at my other videos, you will see that I show you the method for using the cling film. So you're going to start in the middle and roll out. Do not push too hard, and guys, you're going to let your rolling pin do the work. You're also going to move the pastry in the flour so that it doesn't get stuck. Don't just keep rolling out, because if you then get to the end and it's all stuck, there's no way of lifting your pastry. So it's also a good idea to have a palette knife handy just in case something gets stuck, and you can use that. Don't use your fingers to loosen it from the bottom. So I've turned my pastry, and if you need to, I always just have a little bit of flour next to me, and I scissor, hang on, I'm going to show you that again just so that I can show you. So I have a little bit of, and I scissor it up in my hands and then get it up onto my rolling pin. So I cover my rolling pin as well. Now you're going to try and be as even with this as possible. So in one direction, and then keep moving it in the flour And you can also do the same. You can just sprinkle a little bit on top of your pastry rather than putting it on your rolling pin. You can also move the mat. You can do this on cling film, guys. So any way that you find it the easiest. And can you see I'm keeping flour underneath my pastry. Oops. And I'm rolling it out. Now, guys, your pastry, especially for a filled tart or anything like that, if you want your pastry to be lovely and you don't want any soggy bottoms, you want your pastry to be nice and cooked at the bottom, we are aiming for about a thickness of 1 pound. All right, so you'll be able to feel. And guys, I've said this so many times, remember that your hand is your best indicator for seeing where your pastry is higher or lower. Now this pastry, it's going to be more than enough to fill the tin, but remember guys, your tin is 23 across, so with the height you need to measure to make sure that your pastry is the right size. You need to measure 23 across, and then you also need to measure the sides, which is, oops, would help if I actually had centimeters, not inches. I'm just going to do it on the other side. So my tin is 3 centimeters. So I need to make sure that I've got enough to cover. So I need a 26 centimeter round circle to make sure that it fits into my tin. So I'm going to do that a little bit more, and I'm going to turn it for the last time. Be gentle with your pastry, guys. And I'm almost there. Oh. And if it tears, don't worry about it. You'll see my other video also go, just don't worry about it. Just push it back together again. And I think we are there. So now we are going to roll it onto the rolling pin gently. Just like that. Going to get our tin underneath. And we're going to gently flip our pastry into our tin. And now I'm going to line it in exactly the same way as my other video, but to save time I'm going to do this off camera, guys, and I'll show you what it looks like when I come back. Right, so I've done that, and I've used my finger like this to get it into all the edges of the pastry. And now what I want to do is I just want to push into the edges, because I've got fluted edges. If you've got straight edges, guys, you don't need to do this, but you can see as I'm doing that, it's actually forming the pattern of the tin. I'm then going to chill it. I have a baking sheet ready just to pop it onto that so that I can put it into the fridge and chill it. Right, guys, so I've chilled this and it's nice and cold now. Please remember, one of the rules of pastry making is cold in the making, hot in the baking, and chilling is vitally important. And because we've got the time, please make sure that you chill it before it goes into blind bake. So I'm going to pop this into blind bake, and please make sure that you watch the video on blind baking on the channel so that you know what it is that you've got to do. So I'm just doing the holes. I'm going to pop in my baking beans and I'll be back to show you. Sorry guys, I forgot to take off the edges, so I've taken the beans out again. And what I've done is I've sort of pushed the pastry towards the tin so that if it does shrink, it's got a little bit of extra here so that it doesn't shrink too far below the actual pie dish. Right guys, now for the filling. I've got my lemon juice here and I've got some corn flour, and I'm just going to add the two together. Right, corn flour is incredibly fine, so it tends to stick. It's like icing sugar, guys. It tends to stick to the container. So I've got all that out. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever made oobleck, but corn flour has got this amazing property that it can be a solid and a liquid all in one go. I'll do a little experiment for you to show you. My boys absolutely love it. It's really fun to play with. So just make sure that you mix it up quite nicely, and make sure that you've got no lumps, because that will affect your filling for your lemon meringue. So I've got that ready, and I've actually just I have a pip in there. I'm gonna fish that one out. All right, oops, be careful, because it sort of feels sticky, and you don't want to spill your mixture. So I'm going to leave the spoon in there, because as soon as the corn flour settles, you have to stir it again. So, oops. Right, I'm not going to leave the spoon in there. I will leave the spoon to the side. Okay. And I'm going to add my lemon zest. And give that a stir. So now I'm ready to move over to the stove. Right guys, now I have made one change to your recipe. I like, when I make traditional lemon meringue pie. Now guys, I don't often make traditional lemon meringue pie. I make a South African version of it, which uses condensed milk and doesn't actually make the lemon zest like this. Oh, sorry, the lemon curd like this. What is essentially a lemon curd, or similar to a lemon curd or a lemon custard, really. Now I like putting in butter, and I will put this on Show My Homework for you, to add 85 grams of butter to the water. You get a very, very lovely mixture if you do that, and it actually tastes more like lemon curd. So that's why I do it, but you can absolutely do it without the butter, so please don't worry if you don't want to add the butter. Okay, so that's boiling, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to, remember I said you must give it a stir, because you'll be able to feel the corn flour settle on the bottom of the sorry, just seen another pip. You don't want pips in your lemon meringue. Right, so I'm just going to give that another stir, make sure that it's not sticking. Right, and then I'm going to pour my mixture in. Right guys, now you'll see that that has thickened really, really quickly, and you want to stir, and now you want to add the egg, but don't get it too hot, and you want to stir that egg in really, really quickly, otherwise you'll get scrambled eggs in your curd, and you don't want scrambled eggs in your curd. So make sure you get that out and keep stirring, and you want a nice thick consistency. I just want to make sure that all the egg is completely mixed into the, well, it is really a curdy custard. Be careful, because when the mixture is hot, and if you give it too much of a stir, you're going to get splashes. Right, and I'm going to stir that until it gets thicker. Right, so I have been really mixing that so that I can't see any egg in the mixture, and we want a medium heat. I turned my heat down just a little because I thought it was a bit too hot, and I'm going to just gently stir that until it gets thicker, and I'll show you the consistency as soon as we get to that point. Alright guys, so you will see when it gets to the right consistency, it is sort of like a runny custard, but remember guys, it's going to thicken when it cools down. So the way in which you can tell is the same as you would for a white sauce. So just take the tip of the knife, take the back of the spoon and make a line through it, and if it doesn't come together, then your curd is ready. Alright, so your curdy custard is ready. So I'm going to let that aside and let that cool for just a little bit while I make the meringue. Sorry guys, one thing I did want to say to you is cover the top of your curd, because if you don't, then it will form a skin. So, and we don't want that because it'll form lumps. So I'm actually just popping just a little bit of parchment paper over the top, but you can use cling film, anything like that, and remember it must touch the surface. Alright guys, so I'm going to be making the meringue now, and it's going to be noisy, so I'm not actually going to talk. What I'm going to do is I'm going to whisk these I've got 4 egg yolks, egg whites in here, and I'm going to whisk these until they're soft peak stage, and I'll be back to show you what that looks like. Start on slow. So guys, just before I carry on with that, I just wanted to make sure to mention to you that with egg yolks, egg whites, you need to be very, very careful not to get any fat into your egg whites, and also your bowl must be very, very clean. It is best to do this in a metal bowl or a ceramic bowl. If you're going to use plastic, please make sure that you have washed it properly and that there is no oily residue in the bowl. Alright guys, I just wanted to show you what the egg starts to look like. So you can see that it's getting nice and foamy. So I'm going to move that so that there's more light on it. So it's getting foamy, but it's and you can see what's happening here guys is the protein in the egg white is being denatured, and we're using mechanical means of denaturing the protein. So we're breaking all the protein strands, and by doing that we are reforming them into different structure but trapping air in between. Now we need to get it to soft peak stage before we start adding our sugar. So if I just take that out, you can see that I've still got a foam here. It's very foamy. Alright, and I'll show you what soft peak looks like when we get there. Alright, so we're at soft peak now, and you can still see it's quite foamy and it's very soft. Let me do that, and it's falling off. We're now going to add the sugar 1 tablespoon at a time. Now immediately once you start adding the sugar, you can see the meringue starting to change color. It gets white and it's very glossy and smooth. I'm just going to, because with this mixer unfortunately the sugar crystals get stuck, so I'm just going to scrape that down and carry on mixing. Now guys, how to tell if your meringue is ready. So I'm just going to move it over here just so that you can see. So you're going to take some of the meringue between your fingers and just rub it like this, and if you can still feel little grains of sugar, then your meringue is not ready yet, so you need to beat it a little bit more. Right, so guys, this is what your meringue should look like. It's not wobbling, all right, and it's keeping its shape, it's keeping all its little lines, and that's important because when you're piping it, you want, if you want to pipe it, you want those lines, you want those markings in your meringue. Okay, so I'm going to put the pie together, bake it, and then we'll see what it looks like. Right, so I have my lemon filling, and I'm going to pour that into my base. I actually got more than I need. Now also guys, I wanted to mention to you, this is what happens when you're doing 500 things at a time. I was distracted, so I left my pastry blind baking for a little bit too long, so it actually got a little bit darker than I like on the edges, but hey ho, you don't do that. Make sure you keep an eye on your pastry. So then we're going to take our meringue and we're going to put dollops onto actually don't think I let my curd cool down enough because it's almost too, and I actually filled it too much guys, so don't fill it as much as I have. Now you can pipe your meringue on here, absolutely fine, but I like it when it's all rustic and it looks like it's homemade and not perfect. I don't like homemade as perfect, guys. I like homemade to be what it is, homemade. I want to see that somebody has made it. So yes, it looks beautiful, but it must look homemade. So don't make the meringue smooth, and I'm going to show you a good tip. I'm going to just pop some more on the edge here. And then you can take a little palette knife, you can take whatever you want, and I'm going to make little peaks and troughs, and then I'm going to pop that into the oven and I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished. And there we go guys, lemon meringue pie. It's got a lovely sort of crispy top, and I will show you what it looks like when I've taken it out of the tin, but I'll add a screenshot to that. I hope you enjoy it guys, and show me what you've done.